I'll be spending today with my mum and dad and my partner, and it will be a very emotional day for us, heightened by the fact that it's Father's Day as well. But we'll be having some good quality family time, nice and calm and peaceful, away from the craziness of the general election, fortunately.
That sounds lovely. And I guess, 8 years on, do you feel like the family, and particularly, I guess, Jo's children, have come to terms with what happened?
I don't think you can ever come to terms with something so horrific and genuinely unbelievable. I can't believe it's 8 years. It doesn't feel like 2 minutes ago in many respects. An awful lot has happened. And every day is difficult when you lose someone that you love, particularly in such dreadful circumstances. And there are families up and down the country, again, particularly when you think about Father's Day, who have lost their dads under a variety of different circumstances. So I think it will always be a very emotional day for us on the anniversary of when Jo was killed, along with other anniversaries as well. But what we've tried to do as a family is remain resolute in our desire to remember how Jo lived, the kind of person she was, the values that she stood by, and to make sure we celebrate her life and everything that she brought to us as a family, and indeed to public life in the role that she had as being an MP for a sadly too short a time.
You talk about her values, and you've talked a lot in the past about the need for kind of kinder politics. Do you think we've seen that in this election campaign?
I don't think this election campaign has been too bad. We've probably seen moments of inappropriate behaviour, or what I would consider overstepping that line between robust, passionate debate and, inappropriate, whether it's threatening language or threatening behaviour, and that does make me very sad. I'm also quite sad that we've had people who have very openly said that they're not standing in this general election because of the threats and the intimidation and the abuse that people in public life face. But I think the campaign so far has been reasonably civilised, and I hope that can continue in these closing weeks. And I also think whatever happens at the general election, whoever has the privilege of running the country, we use it as a reset moment to look at what our politics in this country looks like, to look at how we can maintain that passionate, robust debate and discussion, which many of us are having every day at the moment. But we also don't let that discussion and debate descend into abusive behaviour, threatening behaviour, and in the worst cases, physical violence. And I think everybody has got a responsibility to work hard on that, whether that's elected people, whether that's the media, social media companies, or indeed everybody in our communities across the whole country.
Do you think there's a kind of message that Jo would have had? I mean, you say it hasn't been that bad. There have been some examples of, we saw Rosie Duffield, one of your Labour colleagues, who says that she doesn't want to attend hustings because she's worried. We saw a milkshake thrown at Nigel Farage, who's obviously right at the other end of the political spectrum. What do you think Jo would have made of all that, and what sort of message do you think she would have wanted to get across?
Yeah, I think Jo, along with myself and many others, would find some of that behaviour totally and utterly unacceptable. Wherever you are on the political spectrum, whatever your views are, there's no excuse for that abuse, intimidation and threatening behaviour. And you're right, we have seen some of it. We've seen far too much of it, even though I'm saying it hasn't been too bad. We have seen examples of it, and that isn't acceptable. Jo would have stood firmly against that sort of behaviour, and she would have said, as I am saying, yes, let's debate issues. Let's have those passionate conversations with people who we profoundly disagree with. But let's also maybe try and find some common ground. Her quote in her maiden speech about having more in common than that which divides us. We probably don't spend enough time talking about our commonalities. We spend a lot of time on the things that we disagree on. And actually, where we do disagree, doing so respectfully, doing so in a civilised manner. And again, sometimes accepting that we're not going to agree, but sometimes compromising instead of hurling abuse and insults at each other. I think that's wholly unacceptable. And also probably a bit more listening. I'm doing a lot of listening on the doorsteps at the moment. I think probably candidates up and down the country are, and that's really important, because if you are elected into public life, your job is to serve. It's to serve the people who put you there, and you can only do that by listening rather than shouting.
Jo's husband, Brendan, said that she would have been gutted, as he put it, to see the election used to denigrate minorities and spread division. Is that something that you agree with?
Yeah, I think, this election should be about bringing the country together. That's what we need. We've had years of division, and that needs to change. We're seeing division, sadly, in countries across the world. We need political leadership that focuses on uniting people and bringing people together. We've got the Euros going on as well. The football is happening, isn't it? England are playing tonight. Football and sport is another powerful way of bringing people together. We should use sport and politics in a similar way to try and unite us and to find that common ground. It's very easy when you're angry, and believe me, me, I'm angry about what's happened to my life. I'm pretty furious, if I'm honest. But what I try and do is channel that anger and channel that emotion into doing something positive. And yes, bad things happen, but we've all got a choice as to what we do. We sometimes can't choose what happens to us, but we can choose our response. And it's easy to blame other people. But sometimes we need to just look at our own personal responsibility, whatever our role in society and our role in life is. And it's very easy to scapegoat other people for the problems that we face. But I think, you know, politics should be about trying to bring people together.
You talk about common ground. Do you have any friends in other political parties? And I guess, could I also ask, I guess in the spirit of positive campaigning, is there anything you think that's been positive about the National Conservative campaign?
Look, I'm really proud of the friendships and professional relationships that I've got across the political spectrum. One of the things I always talk about is the fact that I play in the women's parliamentary football team, and that's MPs from different political backgrounds, whether that's the Conservatives, Labour, SNP, Liberal Democrats. We all come together and we have a weekly football training session, and for that time we're just women, and there's journalists there as well. We come together, none of the other stuff matters. We're just women, we're just mums, we're just brothers, we're just sisters. You know, that's who we are for that time, and that brings us together. And the other thing I would say is, and this is where the media does have a role to play, you tend to focus on the divisive stuff and the argumentative stuff, and I understand that that's part of your job, but actually there's so much stuff that goes on behind the scenes with people working on a cross-party basis and having friendships, and that doesn't get covered. You know, when you see PMQs on Wednesday, you know, it's a snapshot, and actually it's in my view, one of the worst snapshots. There's dozens of meetings going on around Parliament on every single hour of every single day, with people coming together to find that common ground and support charities and businesses and organisations. We don't do enough of that stuff. And I think certainly whoever gets into government, that should continue, and we should talk about that a lot more.
OK, Kim Leadbeater, thanks so much for giving up some of your day. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ali.